Okay, guys. So, hope I'm audible. Yeah. So, thanks for joining all these days. I hope you've enjoyed the sessions. Right. So, today I will just conclude this entire journey of 5 days. But before going further, so yesterday what we were discussing, it was all theories, right from classical evolutionism till cultural materialism we have covered. So I'll just give a glimpse of all these three theories. Yesterday also, before closing, I've just given some ideas. Okay, on symbolic and interpretive theories, cognitive theories, and also postmodernism. So we have also gathered an idea that of late, since the last 5-6 years, or even about right from 2018, the examiners' questions, especially in the anthropological theories, has been shifting towards the later theories, especially after the Second World War, because a lot of developments have happened since the Second World War, and many countries got liberated from the yoke of colonialism, including India. They developed a new breed of anthropology called new ethnography and developmental anthropology, applied anthropology, action anthropology. And in the wake of globalization, since the last 3-4 decades, the entry of 21st century, so many changes have come in the ethnographic styles. So the questions of UPSC anthropology are also reflecting these changing trends. Okay, so recently they have asked about multi-sited, multi-species critical ethnography. What exactly is that? Earlier we have not heard that, and it was not even mentioned in the syllabus. But if you go and do some research on that, it clearly shows the demand of the subject also. It's not that all the questions in the subject will be gone for a sea change, but certain areas the examiner is requiring you to apply yourself to the developments that are happening post-globalization. And one such idea is right from, this 1980s, postmodernism. So yesterday we have talked about symbolic and interpretive theories. So the key thinkers are Clifford Geertz and Victor Turner. David Schneider has never been asked. Very strangely, I usually talk about David Schneider even in my classes. So David M. Schneider has not been asked, but very less chances are there. But what about Clifford Geertz? Clifford Geertz is a regularly asked thinker. Even in 2025, Clifford Geertz and Victor Turner have been asked. And in a nutshell, I'll cover both these scholars. Clifford Geertz, along with his wife, has visited the Balinese islands of Indonesia in the 1960s. He has gone there to study the people's culture and all, and he happens to get caught in a what you call police raid Maruti actually, because in Indonesia cockfights are illegal. So, in fact, the moment he has entered into the Balinese islands, wherever there is a chance, he saw that the people are fond of playing cockfights. Cockfights are declared illegal. They are not conducted openly, but they are conducted in secret places, especially after 3 p.m. in the day and especially in the evening. And it is not allowed for women and children. Only men folk are expected to participate. It is a play dedicated for chiefs and wealthy people, well-off people, people who are well settled. And it's a question of some factionalism, village level factionalism. And since it is illegal, police can raid the kind of cockfights anytime. So when one such cockfight, when both Clifford Geertz and his wife are watching, suddenly the police raid Maruti and these people run, and along with the other people, they go and hide in some man's house, and that man says, these people are our guests. Okay, they just were checking that, and they were not playing any cockfight illegally. So these people thank that man and take their hospitality and continue to do work on the cockfight. So cockfight, Balinese cockfight, according to Clifford Geertz, shows something called as deep play. What exactly is deep play? If you see shallow, there are two types of plays. One is the deep play, then the opposite is shallow play. So if you want to study a group of people and their culture, if you just observe like a tourist or a journalist, you will not be getting the deeper perspectives. You need to actually start seeing very deeper perspectives. Just like how if you see cockfight from a journalistic point of view or a tourist point of view or a general point of view, it looks like people are playing for fun. But yes, there is fun, of course, but there is a lot more than that. There are factions involved. There is one-upmanship involved. There is masculinity. The cocks reflect masculinity. People want to showcase their culture to the outsiders. Okay, children are not allowed. Betting is okay. Betting is allowed. Betting ke upar, cross betting is also allowed. It is illegal, but culturally it is very important. Just like the cockfights that happen in Sankranti time in Godavari districts in Andhra Pradesh. आपको मालूम होगा సో తెలుగు రాష్ట్రాల్లో రెగ్యులర్గా ఎవ్రీ ఇయర్ తెలుసు కదా మీకు సంక్రాంతి కోడి పందాలు జరుగుతాయి అండ్ ఎమ్మెల్యేలు వచ్చి ఇనాగరేట్ చేస్తారు సో ఎమ్మెల్యేస్ కమ్ అండ్ ఇనాగరేట్ దో ఇట్ ఈస్ ఆల్ illegal according to them. Police definitely raid that, but it is only something like correct after major things are over and crores of rupees changes hands. In the same way, Balinese people in the 1960s, imagine the same kind of cultural connection they had with their Balinese cockfight. So Clifford Geertz talks about this deep play. Superficial thing will not be the hallmark of an anthropologist, ethnographer. So in fact, he has to do thick description. He introduces these kinds of terms there, thick description, deep play, and not shallow description or thin description and not shallow play. And based on that, he says symbols have to be interpreted. Everywhere there are symbols. Symbols are there everywhere. You need to only interpret them in the proper context. There is a text. In fact, anthropology should be studied like a science of what you call symbols. According to him, anthropology is not a science in search of evidences, but anthropology is not in search of what you call facts and evidences, but anthropology should be considered as a discipline in search of meaning. This man asks us to see the meaning that is something that meets more than the eye. What exactly is obvious to your eyes? Cockfight, people are enjoying. No, there is something more than that meets the eye. There is a saying in English, there is a phrase in English, something more than meets the eye. What is the meaning of that? అంటే in Telugu I am saying, అంటే కంటికి కనబడింది కూడా మనం చూడగలగాలి. हिंदी में भी बोल रहा हूं मैं. So आपको ऑब्वियस में जो नहीं दिखता है डीपर पर्सपेक्टिव से मतलब तीसरी आंख से देखना होता है. That is called deep play and thick description, because all this deeper thing lie in the symbols, and symbols have to be interpreted according to the context. Okay, symbols have meaning, and these meanings you have to understand. So anthropology should be a science not in search of any evidences or any other what you call any other facts, etc., in search of laws. Yeah, anthropology is not a science in search of law or laws, but interpretive discipline in search of meaning. Please write down this statement. This is an extraordinary statement given by Clifford Geertz in his book Interpretation of Culture. Anthropology is not a science in search of laws, but a interpretive discipline in search of meaning. So what is the job of an anthropologist? To go and search for the meaning. Will the meaning be obvious? Will the meaning be, will people tell everything to you? Okay, come, when you do your interview, we'll say everything openly. No, that does not happen. You have to get the meaning. You have to dig open the meaning. And for that, you need to play these kinds of techniques like deep play and thick description. So this is a summarical thing I'm telling, summary thing. I'm not going very deep also again. And on the other hand, Victor Turner studies, I've already written that to society, Bali people, also called as Balinese people. And what is the phenomenon he studies? Cockfights. And this man, Victor Turner, talks about something called as a society called Ndembu of Africa. According to Victor Turner, and he writes a book also, Forest of Symbols. And these people live in Africa. Naturally, they are full of forests. And if you want to study a society, and if you see their cultural practices, they also include a lot of symbols. What this man says is, every culture has got a lot of symbols. You need to look for those symbols. So Clifford Geertz says you have to look for the symbols and interpret them. Victor Turner says there are a lot of symbols hidden inside a particular society. Even the actors themselves do not know. For example, if you go and ask an Ndembu man what is the meaning of that particular cultural practice, he says, I don't know. Everybody is involved in something called a social drama. Victor Turner uses these kinds of words, social drama. Then he talks about terms like, several other things. He talks about something called as rituals, and especially puberty rituals like Enkanga festival. Enkanga festival for boys, for girls, and there is another festival called Mukunda. Mukunda festival, both are actually festivals. Both are performed when the girls and boys come of age respectively. That means this is a puberty ritual for girls. Whenever you are using puberty, usually it is for girls. I'm using the symbol here. And Mukunda festival is about initiation ceremony for boys. Initiation ceremony for boys. So boys, I'm writing like this. Boys. So what exactly this man is saying? There is a kind of forest of symbols in Nkanga festival. When the girls come of age, what is the meaning of coming of age? I've already told you in chapter 6 when we are talking about culture and personality school. Margaret Mead writes a book, Coming of Age in Samoa. Coming of age means adolescence. In girls, how can it be like understood? In girls, it is an event. Again, it is connected to chapter 11, menarche, menopause. So all these things are your linkages. You have to build the linkages. One topic, girls' menarche, it is there in several chapters. When girls first undergo or first of all experience first menstrual cycle, it's called menarche in the biological language. In cultural language, it is called as puberty. Okay, and it is it's in a general English language, it is called as coming of age. Even boys come of age, but in them it is not marked like in girls. In girls, it is marked because they see menstrual bleeding. When that menstrual cycle starts, then the society starts celebrating that. Many societies, tribal societies in Africa, in Oceania, like Melanesia, Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, and many other islands, Andamanese islands, in India, Central Indian tribes, and also in South India. Many South Indian caste communities also perform puberty rituals for the girls. So why it is so? Because it is a symbol. And let me write another one. For example, in the Nkanga festival, which is meant for the girls, I'm just using the symbol here. In Nkanga festival for the girls, what exactly is symbolic? It is performed under a tree. That entire Nkanga festival, it's actually a festival, small ritual, where only women participate. Okay, it is performed under a particular tree called Madhyi tree, MDYI. It is also written in some books as MUDYI. In some other books, it is actually, this is a wrong spelling, but in some materials of some institutes, these people have written this. This is a wrong spelling actually. These two are okay. Actually, this is the right spelling. Even this is excused. But what is the tree name? Madhi tree. This Madhi tree is also called as milk tree by Victor Turner. Victor Turner says Madhi tree is also called as milk tree because it oozes, it secretes a small something like milky white latex like liquid. Something like हम लोग देखते हैं सपोटा I think in Hindi also it is sapota. తెలుగులో కూడా తెలుసు కదా మీకు సపోటా చెట్టు when it is kacha, not so ripe, when you pluck it. In our childhood we used to do all that, pluck the sapota tree, then white color small liquid used to come. In the same way, this madhi tree also secretes or oozes certain milk like latex like substance. The girl is supposed to actually take some sips of that milk from the milk tree because it is considered symbolic to the breast milk. Let me be very frank here. What Victor Turner is observing all this, why the girls' puberty rites are actually performed under the Madhi tree. Why not the boys' initiation rites? Boys' initiation rites I'll talk about in a while. And because there is a symbolism involved. Just like a woman's breast will give milk to the young one once she becomes pregnant and delivers a baby, then nature has already given milk to the young one. That means a mother's breast or a woman's breasts are nothing but symbol of fertility and carrying forward of the human race. And the woman is ready for marriage once the girl is asked to lie down under the Madhi tree. Actually, that is a practice. Something like a dead woman for about 1 minute or half minute. Then she has to get up and all the women dance around her and they share certain food. The mother of the girl makes some food made of cassava and beans. Cassava means, in Telugu we call it as karra pendalam. Something like kanda also, something like tuberous root like thing, sweet potato jaisa lagta hai. And it is only a all women kind of activity where men folk are not allowed. All this is a female thing because this girl immediately after that, in many cases, 90 out of 100 cases, the girl is married off to a other nearest suitable boy. So all these things are observed by Victor Turner among these Dembu people of Africa, and the festival name is Nkanga. In the similar way, he has observed about the Mukunda festival. Mukunda festival performed for boys. This is written for males. And in that it is called initiation ceremony. In fact, what is initiation? A boy is actually initiated into the manhood. Okay, this initiation ceremony actually is equivalent to something called as circumcision. So a part of the small upper part of the skin, that is loose skin at the end of the penis, is cut. So if you type in the internet, you will get what is circumcision. A small part of the skin above the penis is cut, and the boy has to bear that pain such that he is ready for a very arduous and highly challenging adulthood or man's life ahead. And after successful completion of this Mukunda festival, this boy is also ready for marriage. Of course, he has to learn other crafts such that he can take care of a girl and he can now marry a girl. So these are all certain beautiful practices. In every culture, this is unique. In one culture, the initiation ceremony, for example, when we go to paper 2, after a few minutes, I'll go to paper 2. In paper 2, you will see that there is a practice called Upanayana Samskara. I'll talk about that. Upanayana Samskara is also equivalent to something like an initiation ceremony done for the boys only in India. Okay, so like that, Victor Turner talks about all that. And he links another concept. There was a question in 2020, Victor Turner and liminality. What is liminality again for that? So liminality is a kind of a position, something like which is equivalent to in between and betwixt. A position which is in between and betwixt. That means it is neither this side or neither that side. That means these people, these young boys and girls are neither children, they are neither adults. They are in the adolescent phase. And they are in a very confused state because a girl, when she experiences the first menstrual cycle, she is in a very, very terrible position. She is shocked, surprised. Sometimes she is fearful, sometimes emotionally unstable, and entire society starts flocking around her. Mother, father, relatives, all the women folk come and start singing songs, doing some rituals. Even you might have observed in your households, especially in South India, it is there. When I spoke to like my North Indian students, they said, sir, we don't have that kind of utna zyada communities mein nahi hai. Because in South India especially, there are certain elements in tribal culture that have entered into certain practices. But that is the reason culture everywhere is unique. So when we see this initiation ceremonies of the boys and the girls separately also or together also, what a concept that Victor Turner, which he got inspired by another scholar, Arnold von Gennep, a Frenchman, he has introduced that here actually. That means, let me put it in this way. Victor Turner viewed these two ceremonies with the lens of liminality. This lens of liminality is been given by a man called Arnold von Gennep. He is a Frenchman. In 1905, he writes a book called Rites de Passage in French. It is translated into English as Rites of Passage. So what are these rites of passage? According to Arnold von Gennep, I'll just clear this man, because this can come even in your religion, chapter 5 religion, paper 1, because there also we talk about rituals. There is a topic you can see actually, myths and rituals. So rituals are nothing but rites, R-I-T-S. There is another meaning for this. This man wrote a book in 1905, as I told you, Rites de Passage. And this is a French term, but if it is translated into English, it translates as rites of passage. What do you mean by rites of passage? All the important rituals. What is the other meaning of rites? Rituals, certain practices, certain puja, part, certain samskar. Like when a baby is born, right? During the birth ceremony, there is a namkaran ceremony, cradle ceremony, whatever ceremony that is done. So in certain communities, it's called barasala. In Telugu, we call barasala, naming ceremony. In certain communities, they put the baby in the cradle ceremony. Then the babies, both the boys and the girls, they come into initiation ceremonies, as we have noted just now. In case of the Enkanga, as well as the Mukunda festivals performed in the Endembu society, as noted by Victor Turner. Initiation ceremony jo ho gaya. Then after that, they get married. Even during the marriage, there are certain rituals that are performed. Agni ko sakshi mankar, right? In all the major Hindu marriage practices, Agni is taken as sakshi. And the bride and the boy both have to take at least 7 circumambulations. It's in English, there is a very crude word, circumambulation, nearest word that can come to approximation. So actually, that is very much important ritual here, marriage. And again, then this couple will give birth to the young one. But of course, this couple individually, they die and there is a death as well. So usually in these 4 stages of humanity, humans across almost all the societies, across all religions, they perform these rituals, that is life cycle rituals or rites of passage. So What is a liminality? Victor Turner, and this man also actually he introduced the word liminality or liminal. Victor Turner picked up the same word liminality and he has used in explaining the Nkanga festival and Mukunda festivals of the Ndembu people of Africa. So Victor Turner and liminality. I'll be explaining deeply all these in my actual classes, or whenever you get a chance to meet me in mentorship or test series. There are some more deeper perspectives. At this juncture, it is not right because we got a lot of other stuff to discuss. Symbolic and interpretive theories are done. So yesterday I was talking about cognitive theories, how there are certain people like important scholars were Harold Conklin. There was a man called as Stephen Tyler. Okay, let me write the full name. Harold Conklin, American. Stephen Tyler, American. Most of these people are actually Americans. And there was a person called Frank Goodenough. Frank Goodenough. And many other people. These fellows are all called as new ethnographers or cognitive thinkers. Yesterday I have told you, after 1950s, ethnography. What is ethnography? Ethno means a folk, graphy means description. Description of the folk people. Who are folk people? The tribal people or peasant communities. Simple people with simple rituals, simple lifestyle. And when these folk communities are studied and documented by an anthropologist, that person is called as ethnographer. That book or that whatever collection is called ethnography. So ethnography has become something like a new after Second World War, especially in the 1950s. Why? Because there was a clear shift from etic to emic, according to these people. Earlier, before these people, all these people used to say that earlier or before 1950s, anthropology mostly was dominated by something like the ethnographer's viewpoint. Who is an ethnographer? Just now I have told you. The person who draws an ethnography of the people under study. So that ethnographer's viewpoint, these people call, who called the cognitive anthropologists have given a name called etic viewpoints. And after 1950s, they stressed, these people have stressed, that is Frank Goodenough. There is another man called Frake also. Frank and Frake, both are there. And these people have said, now ethnographer's viewpoint is okay, but every time ethnographer's viewpoint will not give the complete reality. There is something called as native's viewpoint. There is a native's viewpoint. The ethnographer has to capture that native's viewpoint is called as emic viewpoint or emic perspective. Either you can call viewpoint or perspective both and the same, one and the same. You can even add the idea here, etic perspective. You remember yesterday I was talking about in cultural materialism when this man was speaking, Marvin Harris. So emic versus etic. Etic mostly dominated before 1950s. Emic mostly dominated after 1950s, starting with cognitive anthropology, later picked up by symbolic and interpretive theories, because these people were also trying to understand the native's viewpoint. Okay. Acha, let me all add small correction here. Earlier, when we have talked about Victor Turner and this man, Victor Turner and our Clifford Geertz, among the two, who had developed the emic viewpoint. Emic viewpoint was actually developed by Clifford Geertz. This man subscribed to emic viewpoint. That means the native's viewpoint should be given importance according to Clifford Geertz. Whereas Victor Turner has said, why we have got so much training? No, we have to develop this etic viewpoint. Etic viewpoint is important. So among these two, between these two, the viewpoints are slightly different, because as I told you earlier, Victor Turner, when he was asked what exactly is this social drama? What about these actors? And there are so many symbols. The natives themselves do not know the symbols. The natives themselves do not know the meaning of the symbols. I'll ask you a question to you guys. Okay, आप लोग थोड़ा people who are watching live can answer, or people who see the recording now stop the this thing and answer me. आप लोग, whenever you visit a temple, especially Hindus, why do you break a coconut? It's actually symbolic. I'll tell you what is that symbol later. So many of us do not even know why we do this. Why we take circumambulation around the deity or in the temple. Why we do this, why we do that. If you even ask your parents and grandparents, some of them answer, some of them said, shut up, you are not supposed to ask that, you just have to follow. Some elderly people also may not know because they've been just following that since generations. So that is the reason Victor Turner said the actors themselves do not know the meaning of that. It is the job of the ethnographer or the anthropologist to invoke, use the ethic viewpoint and get the meaning of that particular symbol. So he deciphered that whatever the tree he was talking about, the Madhi tree, he gave the name of milk tree because it was symbolic of that breast milk of that girl who has come of age. Those second, I'll just sip of water and come back. Meanwhile, if anybody is live, anybody is interested, you can answer this question. Okay, let's move ahead. So Victor Turner and just now we have talked about Clifford Gates. Both had got different viewpoints. Emic viewpoint, Victor Turner ethic viewpoint, and Clifford Gates emic viewpoint. Stephen Tyler, Harold Conklin, Frank Goodenough, and many other scholars had developed emic viewpoint about the natives people. Harold Conklin studied the Hanunu color categorization, the Hanunu of Philippines. And these people have a very specific, unique color categorization. So they have a particular color categorization where they don't have the Wibjor colors. Say, in fact, they have color categorization based on wetness and dryness, brightness and lightness, or darkness and lightness. And similarly, I've told about the Hopi people, the Hopi Indians in America, North America, they do not know the conception of past, present, and future. They simply talk in general, just like that. And several diseases, several bird names, plant names are all peculiar to one particular culture, and outsiders cannot appreciate that. So, what these people are saying, cognitive, what is the meaning here? Cognitive means thinking, worldview. This thinking is different from structuralism thinking. There also, Claude Lévi-Strauss talked about thinking, thought process. Human mind had usually been based on binary opposites. The mind is structured in that fashion. Here, the cognitive anthropologists also talk about human viewpoint, not the and thought process, not the structure of the mind. Are you clear? So this is the difference between both these structuralists and cognitive thinkers. Cognitive thinkers want us to not come to any judgment or prejudicial understanding of another culture just because you don't understand or just because you understand them in a wrong way. And if you happen to see that particular the other societies, for example, we are talking about the disease name. Many tribal people consider these diseases as being caused by certain spirits. So if you start making fun of them, they may even retaliate. So if you go to Odisha, the moment you enter into certain deep forest, one of my student is working there. So immediately they come with bow and arrow at you, and they are ready to actually, if something goes wrong, they will release the arrow. So आपको immediately attack कर देंगे वो लोग. So you can't make fun of them. You can't actually disrespect them, because for them, the spirits are everything. And many diseases are caused by the spirits. Many birds' names are like very, very well words of you don't know. A Koya boy, according to Stephen Tyler, a Koya boy, even if you ask a Koya boy knows 8 varieties of bamboo. You and I only know one variety of bamboo, right? But this Koya boy knows 8 varieties of bamboo, because these Koya people in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, they live in the forests, and deep forests, they have so many varieties of bamboos. So like that, everywhere you have this depth of this subject lying in the theories. So if you are strong in theories, you can write brilliant answers, not only in the theories part, but also in the other related parts like family, marriage, kinship, and others. Now, I'll just take you to postmodernism. Postmodernism in a nutshell, I'll talk about that. What is postmodernism? As the word suggests, post. Post means after. After modernism. What exactly is modernism? In English language and usage, there is another word for modernism that is called scientific positivism. Scientific positivism is a term that has developed in Europe, especially spread to North America, especially after the cultural renaissance, or it is called Renaissance. Renaissance. We don't call it as Renaissance anymore. Cultural Renaissance or Renaissance happened in the 17th century. Then it kick-started the people coming out of the religion, the dogmas of religion. They started questioning why they are not giving results. You can take the example of our Galileo and others who have proved the heliocentric theory of the universe or the solar system. In fact, sun is at the center of the universe, not the earth. Earlier, people used to believe that earth was flat and we can actually travel just like that. But people like Copernicus, Galileo, and many other scientists have shown that earth is spherical. Okay, and earth is not the center of the universe, sun is the center of the universe. And many beliefs and dogmas were busted in Europe in the Enlightenment era, as well as the Renaissance, cultural Renaissance era, especially when they started going out of Europe, started discovering sea routes to the other parts of the world, and started questioning everything under the sun. So ये जो होता है ना, in Enlightenment era, scientific positivism, see, you see the word scientific. Scientific, already in the beginning I told you, what is science? Science comes from the Greek word scientia. Scientia means to know. Scientia means to know or knowledge. And what is positivism? Earlier, when religion was followed by people blindly, without questioning, dogmatically, they were simply, okay, when they were applying all that, they were not getting positive results. Religion for them gave negative results, because that's the reason modern historians, medieval historians describe there's something called as dark ages. Europe especially had passed through dark age of nearly 1,000 years. After the fall of the Roman Empire and the Greek philosophers' times, many of the philosophers and all these were either killed or their theories were unpopularized. And slowly religion took over. And for that reason, these theories say Europe was under dark ages because people stopped questioning. For nearly 1,000 years, religion has taken over, and whatever religion said, people simply followed, and that did not bring them positive results. And which has actually brought them positive results? In fact, it was science. Science has brought positive results to them. So that is called as scientific positivism. And what was the period before this 16th century? It was traditional society, because people were not questioning. When you don't question and follow orthodox principles, dogmas, and beliefs, myths, etc., to a large extent, you are tended to be called as belonging to a traditional society. And which society is called a modern society? A modern society which questions everything in the with the principles of science. And science, when they started questioning a lot, and science was applied to better humanity, technology was added. Both science and technology were used to improve the lives of the people. It brought positive results. It reduced the death rates which were happening. You have already covered in that epidemiological anthropology as well as chapter 11, right? Demographic anthropology. There was a demographic shift, demographic transition theory in general studies, and epidemiological transition theory in chapter 9.8 as well as chapter 11. So there was lot of deaths that were happening around the world. Science has brought positive results. So people started moving towards science. Even you see, last time I talked about Fraser's question. I'm linking many things. Don't get confused. Slow down and try to link them together. If you have doubts, please approach me. There was a question in 2025. What is the contribution of Fraser to the evolutionary theory? Discuss the place of religion in modernity. Same thing. He said, in savagery, humanity was experiencing magic. In barbarism, humanity has taken recourse to religion. And by the time humanity arrived at civilization, they started following science. The same thing now I'm talking about. And in 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, and now also 20 and 21st centuries, the world is swept over maximum dominated by science. Science is everywhere. Now, the same science has come even in anthropology. Okay. Even in anthropology, science has entered, it has taken deep roots, because human life, human culture, human society, human social culture institutions, human food practices, and such as language and many other principles or facts of life were tried to be explained with the help of science. Or in other way around, human life was put in certain framework of theories and laws, right from classical evolutionism till even our cultural materialism, and then tried to be understood. Then what this man said, Clifford Geertz, and many other people like Stephen Tyler and all the postmodernists, they said, no, humans are not like guinea pigs. Humans are not like lab animals. And anthropology, according to Clifford Geertz, is not a science in search of laws, but an interpretative discipline in search of meaning. So that is the reason, my dear friends, postmodernism wanted again a fresh break from the monotony. It says, now let us say goodbye to all these earlier theories, because all the other theories, right from classical evolutionism, all these are nearly dozen theories or 10 theories, have taken for granted the humanity, and they have left the human outside. In fact, there is no human being, but everywhere there was science. The emic perspective is actually given up. The bias of the ethnographer entered into, actually, even without that ethnographer knowing that he is showing bias. In fact, science, I'll go in another dimension. Science and scientific positivism, in fact, the aim of this, both these dimensions, aim of science is actually objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity means no bias, 100% perfect coverage without any bias. Now, postmodernists started asking questions. Okay, fine. All these people have gone to the field. They have in their mind that, look, I will not be biased. But is it truly possible? Is it truly possible? For example, I am a man. Earlier, I mentioned like Victor Turner, when he studied the Nkanga festival, he himself carried that ethic perspective. Victor Turner, when he was participating, when he wanted to participate in Nkanga festival, according to their cultural practice, can they allow that? Can they allow this man, come, you can also do this, you can please participate? Can they allow that? Can he openly go and participate in the Nkanga festival? Absolutely no. He is a man. No man, no even Ndembu men were not allowed. And how can a Britisher, whether he is an anthropologist or they don't care, they do not allow. If that fellow tries to force himself there, he'll be beaten up. अगर उनको गुस्सा आ गया तो मार भी देते हैं. They'll be killing also. So a man cannot be completely like covering even, he can cover many things, but he cannot enter into a woman's world. Similarly, a woman cannot come and attend the circumcision practice of the Mukunda festival of the Ndembu people, because it's all male thing. There only males can attend. Here only females can attend. So this male-female business actually automatically brings in that bias. I am a man. I cannot appreciate a woman's life, even given a full lifetime. 100 साल भी दे दो मेरे को, ठीक है? And let us be very practical. Even if God or whatever, if everyone, the society, because of development, we got 100 years. Even after that 100 years of life, we cannot understand a woman's life 100%. We may be at least reaching 80-90% or even 95%, but not 100%. In the same way, women cannot appreciate man's world completely. बोलते हैं ना, अलग ये मर्द लोग, तुम मर्द लोग ऐसे, और all your men fellows are like, men are like this, and women and men folks are where you women are like this. So we tend to generalize. So that bias is carried forward or taken forward by the anthropologist to the field. Even without, he says, no, I will not do bias. Even if he is aware fully, he is in full senses and sober, but still he gets some bias. He shows some bias inadvertently. And in the same way, man, again, white man, a white fellow, whether woman or man, and a Western fellow, and man, a Western woman, naturally they'll bring their bias. And rich man studying poor people, poor man studying rich people, it's not possible to bring about 100% objective ethnography into the picture. So what these people say, postmodernists say, please deconstruct part by part, सबको निकाल के फेंको, and don't call anthropology as anthropology. They say anthropology should be called as cultural studies. They even gave a new name. Okay, remove the word anthropology, because there is no man in your study. All your writing are your theories and concepts. You have to put your study under a framework, write a thesis, write a book, and get your that published, become famous, become a lecturer, earn a readership there or a scholarship there. You become famous, you are happy, but those people are left like that. That's the reason in 2025 there was a question: how can postmodernism be understood as? I'll just give you that question. A second. There was a question, I'll just tell you. How are the theories of postmodernism relevant in promoting social justice and empowerment of marginalized communities? See, there is an answer in the question itself. In fact, postmodernism is very much relevant in promoting social justice and empowerment of marginalized communities. How come? Because you just reverse this. First, every time, most of the times, the studies that are conducted in anthropology are male centric. Even when Malinowski went to study the Trowbriders, there was and he talked about the Kula and the chiefs and a lot of other things. But he has done that study in between 1914 and 1918. But in the 1980s, there was a woman, a scholar called Annette Wiener. Many of you may not know this lady's name. Annette Wiener, actually, I'll write here her name. Annette Wiener is a lady anthropologist who has visited the Trobriand Islands in 1980s, nearly after 60, 70 years of Malinowski's work. Malinowski died in 1942. Almost nearly 40 years after the death of Malinowski, this lady has stepped on to the Trobriand Islands, and she said Malinowski missed many dimensions. He did not actually see the woman's point of view. Women-centric ethnography has gone for a toss. The most famous anthropologist of the entire anthropology syllabus, number one, and he's also called as father of modern ethnography. And this man missed many angles in the female dimension. Okay, so females come under marginalized sections, right, in the society. Now, how to understand marginalized sections in a society? Very simple. What are the schemes? I mean, to whom the schemes are made by the government of India and the state governments? Number one, scheduled tribes, scheduled castes, OBCs, minorities, women, children. Women are also there. So all these are marginalized communities. Women, by and large, if you take the world as an example, women come in the first place. Men, women. In the larger picture, I'm telling you, we are not talking into isolated thing. Women are all marginalized sections. So earlier, women were not at all in the picture in the ethnography, and it was all man's world. Now, what about other dimensions here? White man. And which kind of people were covered? Mostly whose innovations, discoveries, technologies, they became popular around the world. Who are claiming that they are running the world? The white people, both white men and women. And what about the non-whites, the Negroes, the Indian people, and the people in Mongolian race in different parts of the world? So they are all marginalized. From this angle. What about Western? Western people are well off. But what about the opposite, non-Western people? Okay. And similarly, there is another thing, north-south. So all these years, northern hemisphere dominated. So who are the marginalized communities? Exactly opposite. The communities which are opposite to this are southern hemisphere countries, like for example, you take all these third world countries in southern hemisphere. Okay, they are very close to the kya bolte hain, below the equator, and many of them experience storms and extreme weather conditions. Southern, then women are marginalized. Again, non-white people or Negro, black people, as well as brown and yellow skinned people. Western means opposite is non-Western people. These are all the marginalized communities across the world. And postmodernism actually talks about these people, and they recommended the empowerment of the marginalized communities. First of all, the major step that has to be taken is deconstruction of the earlier theories. Now we go for wider perspectives. Now take into account certain new ethnographies, like I'll just give you one beautiful example. How question paper itself has given your answer. There are certain questions recently in 2025, 2024. where they have asked about, for example, they said how political economy, there is a question, many people got flummoxed after seeing that question, how political economy, एक सेकेंड अभी बताओ, integrated with ecological and adaptability perspectives in biocultural anthropology. So very beautifully crafted question for 15 marks. I repeat the question. How is political economy integrated with ecological and adaptability perspectives in biocultural anthropology? Actually, which is the context? Biocultural anthropology. This is a center. How do you actually write something even without you don't know anything? The answer is biocultural anthropology. This has come as a 15 marker in 2024. You'll be surprised. If you just see 2024 paper, you'll find biocultural anthropology in 10, I think 10 marks or 15 marks. The same thing this time he has stressed with some keywords. What are the keywords he has given? How political economy is integrated. First, political economy. I will analyze this now. This is actually linked to postmodernism. Let me be very clear. Then, how it is integrated with, there is another dimension. Ecological and adaptability perspectives. Ecological perspective and adaptability perspective. So, there are three dimensions. So, this is a three-dimensional topic. So, either kya likhoge aap? Adaptability perspective. Here it is ecological, it is adaptability. The classic example, recently there was a case study based on that study only this question has been framed. I'll give you that scholar's name. That man was none other than Thomas Leatherman. There was a man called, anthropologist called Thomas Leatherman. He has studied the Andean people, the Andean communities. Which people? Andean. Who are Andean? I think I've talked about them even earlier. So Andean people, then when he has studied, he has noticed that usually how Andean people get adapted bioculturally, they have adapted to high altitude climate, 9.7. If you see the syllabus, you'll understand. 9.7. And naturally, they are all adapted to the high altitude climate, whatever resources they have, whatever food items they have, the plants and animals. So they got adapted to the natural conditions. Okay? So what happens? This is a traditional lifestyle, the tribal people. Usually people living on the top of the mountains are tribes. And as long as the climate is very hostile, very, very tough, outsiders, plains people or the mainstream people do not enter. They just go as tourists and come back. Okay? But what happened, and in the recent past, since 2010, 2015 onwards, when Thomas Leatherman has documented several years of research that the Andean people are no longer living in their traditional adaptable styles, like they have got adaptability to living in extreme hypoxic conditions, their lungs have larger volume, their blood, correct, their blood can, capillaries are driven in such a manner that they can extract more oxygen. The pregnant women also withstand, the babies, fetuses survive. There are some specific genes for survival in that extreme thing. These genes were selected by nature. The latest example of natural selection, all that was actually what we call the general thing that we see in biological adaptability at the gene level. Culturally, these people eat certain fruits, certain seeds, certain food items. So they wear certain clothes, they build certain houses. So bioculturally, these people have adapted and they've been living in harmony with the nature perfectly well. But of late, after certain forces have entered, something like mining companies, mining is a backdrop. So earlier, what was their political economy? Simple tribal lifestyle. There is a clear shift that you have to notice. Before these outsiders started entering there and doing mining, What was a political economy that these people were dealing? Their political economy was simple: tribal clan system, tribal system, whatever decisions they used to take up. Their political system was elders, clan elders, lineage elders used to take decisions. And all was suitable according to their ecology. Entire lifestyle, long-term cultural, biocultural adaptability, their ecology and political economy were all in line with each other. It was in harmonious, this thing which produced something called as biocultural anthropology. What Thomas Leatherman has actually gotten was, after the entry of the mining companies, the traditional way in which these people got adapted to the local conditions got started breaking down. For example, in tribal India also, how these people in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, before the industrialization and mining of all these deeper pockets, they were living in hunting, gathering, pastoralism, and aram se, matlab, they were not much coming into the mainstream society. They were almost like isolated, and their culture, all that biocultural adaptation, their ecological adjustment, and their political economy were in harmony with their lifestyle. ये सब ठीक ठाक चल रहा था. But when mining started, industrialization started, many of them, acha, I'll just give you one beautiful example. Traditionally, what is a drink that these people take? Intoxicating drink का क्या नाम है बताओ? Usually, even now also, many tribal people in India, what is a traditional drink? Intoxicating drink? It is mahua, liquor based on mahua. So that these people used to, even earlier, they were happy and they never got addicted to outside liquor. But when industrialization, mining, all this have started, many men folk become addicted to the Indian made foreign liquor, or that क्या बोलते हैं, outside liquor, which they have to buy with the money. For that money, they were all dependent on the women, all women beating, wife beating, and many became drunkards, addicted. They became cheap labor, easily available in the local addas and hired by the local contractors, just like you have seen in Pushpa movie. Pushpa wait karte rehta hai. Ecological is something which is related to environment. It's ecological. It's not ecological means ecology based. So what kind of environment you find in a mountainous area? Completely full of trees and ice, snow sometimes in winter, and less oxygen. That is the ecology. The Andean people got adapted long back, since thousands of years they are living there. So they can live there. If you and me go there, we feel like breathless and many things. I've discussed already that in 9.7. 2 days back, you can see the video. This is the 5th day of the video, lectures, which we thought will be useful to the people writing mains this year, and even of course to general public, general anthropology students. You can watch that and you will connect that. Both lot of connections you have to make actually. So once you have that connecting ability, you will really feel this. I've taken the best decision of my life, especially with respect to UPSC preparation, as far as optional is concerned. Coming back to that example, now after a lot of liberalization and globalization, mining companies entering into these mountainous areas, the same thing happened in the Andes in South America, that is Peru region, Peru and all those countries, especially Peru in South America, and also in India, bauxite mining companies, iron ore mining companies, and many mining companies entered there. This is a change in the political economy. And in India, tribal India, there is an act called PESA. Then there is an act called FRA. These also come into the picture. According to PESA, the Gram Sabha is the most powerful body. And without the approval of the Gram Sabha, no mining leases should be given to any company. But Gram Sabha has just remained on paper. Gram Sabha's power became something like on paper. Everything was looking like toothless tigers. So the purpose of PESA got defeated in many parts of India, especially scheduled 5 areas. All these are again connected, as I told you. So mining has become very, very notorious. It has led to the new kind of political economy where the contractors, the mining companies, and the powerful elite are controlling the local economy. The tribal people have lost their traditional way of life and now they are dependent on the market. And most of them are illiterate. They do not know about other employment opportunities or skills. So they are hired as daily wage labor. And the moment they come get the labor, the wages, they spend half of that or full amount in drinking. So what is impacting their ecology, adaptability? Everything is at the junction of biocultural anthropology. So Thomas Leatherman's case study is an excellent example of this. If you hit the nail on its head, this much only if you write, you will be given wonderful marks. So why I have given all that? This kind of ethnography now is becoming popular in anthropology under the rubric called postmodernism. Now we are talking about postmodernism, right? I'll give you another example of that in the question which has come in 2025. Multi-species, multi-species, multi-sited and critical ethnography. All are all three different dimensions. Let us take the first one, multi-species. This is the second one, multi-sited. Third is critical. And what is common in that? Ethnography. I have told you what is ethnography earlier. This comes under chapter 8 also. Chapter 8 paper 1 and chapter 6 paper 1. Both are part of this and even it is linked to paper 2 to some extent. So what is multi-species ethnography? Multi-species ethnography, in fact, this is actually initiated by a person called Marcus. So this man said, George Marcus, in 1990s, he's initiated this discussion, said anthropology or any other study should move away from anthropocentrism. What is anthropology all these days before 1990s or just before the onset of 21st century? Anthropology was actually focusing mostly on human. Okay? Only human. How many days you say human-centric or anthropocentric ethnography? Anthropocentric ethnography means centric means who is at the center? Man or humans. Okay, anthropology, you can ask, sir, anthropology means study of man. No. Why we are breaking our head? No, my dear. In fact, we have to say goodbye to that. There are many plants and animals that are present in this world. Human is dependent on them also. Okay, there are lots of plants and animals based on whom we are living today. You guys know there is a very peculiar thing that I've studied almost 8 to 10 years back in a magazine. What is the link between honeybees and humans, you know? Any idea? Yes, Karo. People who are watching live, you can answer that. Or later also you can comment. Honeybees and human life. What will happen if honeybees get extinct? What happens if honeybees get extinct? So that is a question you can answer me later in the comment section. Right? And if honeybees get extinct, there is some connection to humanity. So in the same way, there were some people like, there was a lady, this lady called Anna. And this woman was doing research on mushrooms, how mushrooms were actually raised by this one, Anna Singh actually. So how global commodity chain of mushrooms was actually completely doing like, it is doing, going across the borders. And there was another lady called Nancy Hughes Shepherd. Nancy Shepherd Hughes. Nancy Shepherd Hughes. Anna Singh. T-S-I-N-G. I'll write the names here. So who are the key thinkers? George Marcus, George Marcus actually pioneered this, and there was another lady called as Anna Singh, Tsing, and there was another woman called Nancy Shepherd Hughes. This Nancy Shepherd Hughes talked about, she has tracked illegal organ trade across the world, because this illegal organ trade of kidneys, liver, all were going across the world in an illegal manner. She, in fact, actually tracked the bodies. She somehow like entered into they got information about these gangs, mafia, and she tracked how this illegal transport was being done. So it is multi-sited, many sites, multi-species. Many species are connected with humans. It is no longer only nature separately, culture separately. No, man and nature are connected. Man, that is culture, nature, that is all the biodiversity, both are connected. So whenever you want to do ethnography, right, from now onwards, from 1990 onwards, you have to include not just man or woman, but also the biodiversity around, because our life is dependent on other animals and plants. We are dependent on them, they are dependent on us. In fact, they are dependent on us because we are trying to conserve them. We are building sanctuaries, national parks, okay, conservation efforts we are doing, but it is not enough. On the one hand, we are cutting down the trees and mining and going into the tribal regions. In fact, tribal people are the first original people who protect the plants and animals and mountains, lakes without any effort. It is a part of their culture. They are called the children of nature. Okay, आपको मालूम होगा. They are called children of forest, children of nature. Without anybody telling them, they are doing this since thousands of years. So see how much connection is there. Anthropology is the study of all this plus tribal people. In paper 2, we talk about tribals a lot. So I'm going a bit faster. You might be like slightly confusing. So क्या करना है आपको? You have to put this video in slow mode, or part by part you listen, then stop and write notes. Then you'll understand. All the pieces will fit. Okay. Just now I've spoken about mining in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh. Many tribal people are dislocated. Their life is uprooted. Recently, Kane Betwal link has uprooted some families, displacement. So what is happening to their lives? And they were the ones who were protecting the nature. So every time, anthropology is not just about the man, but also other species. Multi-sited and critical. What exactly is a critical research? Critical research is about how you have to talk about other things like inequality, okay, how inequalities and injustice, for example, climate refugees. We talk about climate refugees. If climate change is increasing, global warming, rising the temperature of the entire atmosphere, a lot of island nations will be submerged. A new class of people, refugees will emerge. Climate refugees, they are called as. And what about the inequalities that are increasing in the world because of globalization? Who will study them? You got it? Every time globalization is not about only movement of capital, material, then labor. See, this is a traditional definition you see in economics and general studies. But there was a man called Arjun Appadurai. That's the reason the question was asked in 2023. Arjun Appadurai's contribution to this globalization studies. He talks about several scapes, idioscapes, then econoscapes, environmental scapes, cultural scapes. I'm just giving an idea. He says globalization is not just a moment of ideas, capital, knowledge, labor, and only resources. No, it is also the moment of people, moment of cultures, moment of fashion, moment of ideas, moment of political ideas, moment of then food and festivals. So much movement is going across the globe. So Arjun Appadurai got that recognition because he has unveiled to the world the multi-dimensional nature of globalization. Globalization should not be studied only in one-way traffic session. So multi-dimensionally, you have to approach globalization. In the same way, multi-species, multi-dimensional or multi-sited and critical ethnography is the order of the day according to these scholars. And is it not fitting postmodernism? You have to tell me. So guys, we have done with so many theories all this time. So we'll now open the discussion. Rather, we have got left about 1 hour of our lecture, approximately 1 hour. In this 1 hour, I'll try to do justice to the topics in paper 2 and also some parts in social cultural anthropology, that is marriage, family, kinship. Then we have got economic organization, political organization and social control, religion, and culture, language and communication. Culture, language and communication. It's not actually very easy here. Even we have got research methods in anthropology. In simple words, it is called also as key field work techniques in anthropology. And also Indian society and culture like caste system. Then development of Indian anthropology or anthropology in India. I'm writing anthro in India. Indian village. These are all the major topics. Then the tribal part. Tribal India, I'm simply putting one single heading. So when you have got all these topics, the smart way is lot of, again, connections, lot of linkages are there between these topics. For example, when I'm talking about marriage, the marriage, we have got old questions. Earlier, they used to ask about marriage definition, universality of marriage. Is marriage universal? Can you have a universal definition of marriage? All these questions are a passe, P-A-S-S-E. Abhi, nobody is asking these kinds of questions. They are asking you how these marriage forms are changing. How many types of marriages are there? How do you situate marriage in live-in relationship? These kinds of questions are coming. So how many types of marriage? All these kinds of marriage like monogamy, polygamy, polyandry, monogamy, polygamy, again in polygamy, polygyny and polyandry. All these are examples we give from tribal India only, mostly from Indian tribes and also 1 or 2 tribes from outside of India. So examples, whenever we talk about examples, we invariably talk about tribes. Why every time we talk about tribes? Because every time the examiner, the syllabus setter, right, the anthropology subject itself is suggesting, look, my dear student, you have to every time go and, whenever you are studying anthropology, understand the diversity of the mankind. Humanity is not a black and white color. It's not about simply black and white. It's about the 7 rainbow colors. And even more than that meets the eye. There are some other colors, ultraviolet, infrared. There are so many other spectrum of variety and diversity in this world that you can capture only with the lens of anthropology. So whenever you're trying to understand the other person or the other culture, please try to remember that there are certain cultural practices completely opposite to that of your cultural practices. So don't denigrate the other person, don't insult the other person, their language, their looks, their color of the skin, their men and women. So many jokes are cracked on women. So by the men folk do like that. So black people, Negro people are looked down upon. And in India, Northeastern students, whenever they go into the parts like Delhi and other cities, it's not that they are given a great welcome. They are also they face discrimination. There is a lot of discrimination based on ethnicity. So, what is the subject, entire subject, all these dimensions, chapters that are part of our subject, what they're actually asking us? Please appreciate this diversity, appreciate, acknowledge, accept, because reality is reality. Even if you put a glass, if you put a glass of a caste and see the other caste, this is your caste glass. And if you start seeing the world through this caste, the world is either completely your caste, my caste people, other caste, my caste, other caste. If you put a glass of my religion or your religion and start seeing the world, you'll always be talking in this language. These are all my religion people, those are other religion people. So there is a lot of difference. So we go by these kinds of differences. In fact, anthropology is there to bridge these gaps between humanity. For that reason, I'm telling you, in tribal India, there are many communities which practice polygamy. One man marrying many women. There is also opposite thing called polyandry. Of course, it is coming down. There are certain communities like the Khasa in Uttarakhand, and there is a community called Thoda, right? Thoda of Nilgiris in Tamil Nadu. Thoda people had a marital practice called one woman marrying many men, usually brothers. So polyandry, and that is there even in certain communities like the Khasa and certain Tibetans and Marquesans of Polynesia, many societies. So in the same way, there is diversity everywhere. The examiners slowly started moving away from this traditional basic terminology. So it is more of applied part. How marriage and family are linked, how family, marriage, and kinship are linked, how alliance theories and descent theories actually try to establish why humans marry, why humans give importance to their own relatives, what is kinship, what is lineage, what is clan. So much kind of this kind of changing of the nature of the questions will give you an idea on that. Those all establish the linkage between family, marriage, and kinship. Kinship again is linked to economic organization, because many among the simple societies, the tribes, the economic activity is mostly carried out by the family itself, the joint family, extended family, lineage, and clan members support in each other's economic activities. The group goes to hunting and gathering. The entire family group participates in pastoralism or garden cropping or horticulture. So there are many examples. If these are the simple people, tribal people, and that is the reason their lifestyle is called as simple societies. They are called simple societies. Their technology is simple. And many examples are also there from tribal India, economic organization. The Birhor, for example, the Birhor, entire family acts as a unit. The Chenchu, again, family is a unit. The Chenchu people are they have not adopted agriculture, even though they stay very close to city of Kurnool and Hyderabad. Kurnool city is like very near for them, about just 30-40 kilometers. If they travel 30-40 kilometers, they enter into civilization. They can mingle with civilized people, but these people never would like to get civilized. They stay just like that. They wait for the government programs, just some water and basic electricity they are asking. Certain nets or certain kinds of protective walls to protect themselves from the onslaught of pigs. And among the Chenchu, there is a practice. Every time, whenever a man goes for honey collection, every time, whenever a man goes for honey collection usually only men do. So, whenever a man goes for honey collection, usually he is accompanied by, so he along with him travels his brother-in-law. It is like a thumb rule in among the Chenchus. Compulsorily, a man is accompanied by his brother-in-law whenever that brother-in-law is going for honey collection. Can you just guess why? Why the brother-in-law has to accompany this man? Again, you can give the answer in the comment section. So in separate videos, maybe we'll release this as small parts, bits in the social media. Then you can also participate. Everyone, whosoever is interested there. So there is a lot of logic, and that brother-in-law's support to the his own brother-in-law, his sister's husband, is called kinship. Kinship is thus linked to honey collection called economic activity called honey collection. So kinship is linked to economic organization. Economic organization is linked to political organization. The way people live based on their economic activity, even their political activity is also organized like that. So there are many hunter-gatherers around the world, like just now we have talked about the Chenchu, the Birhor, the Andaman Islanders, the Semang of Malaysia. There are certain communities like the till recently Veddas of Sri Lanka, and the San people in the Kalahari Desert, also called as Johansi San, and all these people, Eskimo people in the Arctic. These people live in bands. Okay, bands are the smallest political units. The band may not contain more than 40-50 people. So there are about 5 to 6 nuclear families, 4 or 5 members in family, all move together as a mobile unit or something like a nomadic unit. So they don't get settled in any single place. They don't have permanent houses. So the smallest political unit is called a band. So we are interested in anthropology, in the study of bands and tribes, how people in bands life, how their economic life is organized around hunting and gathering, how women are treated there, how much kinship is important for them, what about their decision making, leadership, and are they are their populations decreasing, how they survive in extreme temperatures, what is their belief in magic, ritual, and religion? Do they have religion at all? Do they follow science, or they rely on magic and spirits? So many beautiful questions get entice the anthropologists. They always attract the anthropologists. So the anthropologists are always interested in studying these simple societies, and there are so many lessons to be learned from these societies. So once those lessons are learned by the anthropologists, these lessons are written in the form of ethnographies and essays and paper presentations. Then they come into the syllabi of the universities, and certain of them go to the government policies. The moment these anthropologists' recommendations enter into the government's domain, these people's contributions become applied anthropology or action anthropology. Okay, so the knowledge gained by the anthropologists will be used by the governments, multinational companies, advertising companies, agencies, so many NGOs, United Nations bodies, and anthropologists are key in this fashion. So we have to learn a lot from, in fact, we can learn a lot from these tribal people. We cannot look down upon them. We cannot actually come to a conclusion about their magic, spirits, etc., because they believe there is a lot of logic in their religion. There is a lot of logic in their magic. They say that their ancestral spirits have a lot of powers. That's the reason even today that kind of practice is even followed in our societies, because we too have ancestral worship. So many things are there, my dear friends. So culture, language, and communication Already this is linked to cognitive anthropology, I told you. There are certain ideas like Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. These days they are like dominating the questions. Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Edward Sapir, student of Franz Boas, and his student Benjamin Lee Whorf. So Sapir-Whorf hypothesis gives an idea that culture is determined by language. It's called linguistic determinism, linguistic relativity, linguistic determinism. There are two levels of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis: linguistic relativity, linguistic determinism. It says that initially the first lighter level is linguistic relativity. Okay, we can link language and culture. Culture is dependent on language. Okay, our cultural practices also reflect our language. Our language reflects our cultural practices. Both are something like mirror images of each other. And linguistic determinism says that our languages determine our culture. That's a slightly extreme viewpoint. Many scholars criticize this linguistic determinism, the extremist kind of thing. Nevertheless, there is an establishment of culture, language, and communication. There is a lot of link between culture, language, and thought. The question has come in 2025. I have told you it is also part of cognitive anthropology. So much is there, and I can go on and on and on. I can talk about that. Okay, regarding these topics, and they are highly linked to each other, and everything is made possible by research methods in anthropology, field work. How these anthropologists actually work in the field? They follow certain techniques like very oft repeated questions. These are regularly being asked, like participant observation, critical ethnography. Recently it has come. Okay, we have talked about recently statistical methods also. They are asking how survey methods, sampling methods, interview techniques, case study methods, and the types of ethnography. There was a question in 2018, types of ethnography. How many types of ethnography are there? So regularly one question is coming from research methods in or fieldwork techniques in anthropology, either directly or slightly indirectly. Okay, I'll now go to the paper 2. Lastly, we have got about approximately 45 to 50 minutes. Finally, we'll talk about paper 2 completely. The first chapter in that, in fact, 1.1 to 1.3, we have already talked in as part of archaeology, prehistoric archaeology or archaeological anthropology. Chapter 2 is the case in point here. Here we talk about ethnic and linguistic elements of Indian population and also some population demographics, linguistic elements in Indian population, as well as slightly population markers or demographic markers, like for their population factors responsible for Indian population growth rate, then fertility, then all this. So basically the examiner is mostly focused on the ethnic and linguistic elements. Recently also there was a question on Sarkar's classification and Risley's classification and Sarkar's classification. There are in fact about 6 to 7 classifications. H.H. Risley, then B.S. Guha, S.S. Sarkar, and there were some minor classifications like Ekstead, A.C. Haddon, and we have got Gufrida Ruggeri. So, and there was also another classification by Chanda. So about a half dozen classifications are there, wherein they wanted to actually understand who are we Indians. Do we belong to the Negro community? Do we belong to the Mongoloid race, or do we belong to Caucasoid race? In another opening class, if you remember, if you see all these five classes, 5 sessions, nearly 2.5 hours each, you'll be really like getting a lot of clarity. In one such session, I have raised this question: which race we actually belong to? And do you remember I said, in fact, we belong to the combination of several races. We don't belong to one particular race. In fact, the word race have to be altogether completely abandoned. Now we don't, in fact, we should not be using the term race, especially after the publication of the UNESCO statement on race, because nowadays, what is the correct word to be used? Ethnic group or ethnic. There is a concept of ethnicity, not race and racism, because the world is already like, it has suffered a lot, and humanity killed humanity. I mean, let me put it in a very interesting phrase. Humanity killed humanity many times. Humans, suddenly that animal comes out, and we have killed each other in the name of religion, caste, in the name of the race. And racism has actually been responsible for several deaths. So race has to be removed. Okay, fine. But which ethnicity do we have? According to scholars like Risley, we are a combination of, again, so many basic races. Again, he used the term Mongoloid, he used the term Dravidian, he used the term Indo-Aryan, he has used certain Scytho-Dravidian, all that elements he has used, Indo-Aryan, Scytho-Dravidian, Mongolo-Dravidian, all the sub races which have resulted from admixture. And racial admixture, we have seen in 9.5, the factors responsible for what you call race crossing in man, or the formation of the races. And what about the other classifications? There was a man called B.S. Guha. He has said there are certain elements like Negrito elements, Proto-Astroloid elements. He said there are Mediterranean elements in Indian population. Again, Mediterranean are divided into Paleo-Mediterranean, Mediterranean, and all these modern types of Mediterranean. Okay, so all these are more or less slightly developed version than our Mr. Risley, Hope Herbert Risley, an English officer. Guha was the first trained physical anthropologist in India. Later came Sarkar. Sarkar criticized Guha's classification. Of course, Guha criticized Risley's classification. Sarkar said, no, Negrito are not there in India. In fact, Australoid people are the earliest people in India. So these are some terms which, of course, I cannot now go on, deciphering now. In actual classes, we will be discussing about them. Again, in chapter 2, as we can see, linguistic elements in Indian population. How many language groups we have? Broadly 4. We've got the Indo-Aryan group, or the European group of language family actually, big family, Indo-Aryan family, Dravidian family, Ostic family. These are the big 3 groups. Again, they were divided again to several subgroups. The Dravidian family, South Indian or the Peninsular, the Indo-Aryan, mostly the North Indian. And there is an Ostric group, and there is another one called, which is basically Himalayan group, or that is also known as by different names, the Mon Khmer group, etc. So they belong to the northeastern kind of languages. So even languages are all not uniform. There is a lot of diversity. The main aim of this chapter, chapter 2, is to make the student introduced to the Indian diversity, the unity in diversity in India. So we are all Indians basically, but there is a lot of diversity in ethnicity as well as language. There are hundreds, rather thousands of languages. Certain languages which are spoken by a population of 10,000 or more are only counted by the Linguistic Survey of India. There is schedule number 8, which has got 22 languages in our Constitution of India, Schedule 8. So like that, language is very important from the cultural point of view as well as government point of view. There are constitutional protections to protect the linguistic minorities. All that is there in chapter 7 as well, linked in paper 2. Coming to chapter 3, what we have got is a wonderful area which actually talks about the caste system and its origin, and how caste system is extraordinarily like something like a framework. It has become the fulcrum or the base of Indian society. So caste system has originated, or it has got roots in the Varna system. And what is Varna system? Initially, according to people like Risley, when Aryans came to India, in fact, they have invaded India, then it's called Aryan invasion theory or Aryan incursion theory. This question was asked in 2024, 1 year earlier, Aryan invasion theory. So what is Aryan invasion theory or Aryan incursion theory? It is, according to that, a group of people who are nomadic, slightly pastoral people. So again, they were also tribal in character in those days. They have, in search of greener pastures, came to India. They started coming into India through the northwestern route, coming from Persia and Europe, and they have settled down in the Indo-Gangetic plains. And when they came across the local populations, correct, the local populations were dark in color, where the Indo-Aryans or the Aryans were white in color, and the color of the skin actually became the basis of the initial stratification of the society. So Varna was born. Varna's original form was color of the skin, according to Risley. And slowly, the Aryan people have defeated the local people, and they gave them the name called Dasa or Dasyu. Dasa people, the local people who were defeated in the conflict between Aryans and the people already living in India those days at about 2500 BC. Okay, 2000 to 2500 BC. Those days, BCE, today it's called BCE. Those days, the society clearly got divided into Arya versus Dasa. Arya people dominated the Dasa or Dasyu. Slowly, the Dasa Dasyu people got, they got assimilated into the Aryan society, but they were given a lowest position called the Sudra. So eventually, the entire society became fourfold society: the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. The Sudra were this original, the people who were already there in India. Already by the time the Aryans entered into India. Of course, this theory is one of the most debated theory. And these people are also called as Nishada, Shudra, then Asura. They were given because of the title, like the dark-skinned people, Nishada. So these, in this fashion, during the Vedic time, especially during the Rig Vedic times, the society was already organized into 4 Varna. The 4 Varna had certain practices. The 4 Varna, especially the first 3 were called as Trivarga. They were called Dvija. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, all the 3 were called as Dvija. Dvija means twice born. And they had to undergo Upanayana Samskara. Already I have told you what is Upanayana Samskara. While I was discussing about Victor Turner and liminality, Arnold von Gennep. And Upanayana Samskara is the thread ceremony, that sacred thread, Yagnopavita Dharana. In Hindi or Sanskrit, they call it Janyu Dharana. So people wear, in Telugu, we call Jandhyam or Yagnopavitam. Sanskrit mein Yagnopavita bolte hain. So that Yagnopavita Dharana is also called as Upanayana Samskara for boys only. So they have to undergo something called as ashrama system. They have got 4 ashrama. These 3 communities together, of course, they are called Dvija. Dvija were to undergo 4 levels of lifestyle. That was the Brahmacharya, Everything is, see, how within the short time, I'm trying to connect everything. Whichever, I mean, is the easiest or fastest route I'm going. Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. These Dvija people, not the Ekaja, because the Shudra was called as Ekaja, only once born. Why it is these people are twice born? Why these people are only once born? Because the Dvija people undergo Upanayana Samskara, a ritual death, again ritual rebirth. Just like that in Enkanga festival, that girl was lying down under the madhi tree, just like motionless, just like a dead corpse, or for half minute, 1 minute. Then again she wakes up and all the women dance around her. So what is that? Ritual death and ritual rebirth. So a person is supposed to have died in the samskara. Again, after the samskara is done, a person is reborn. Why it is reborn? Because till that time, that boy has not got any education. The boy has to undergo education in a Gurukula. So at about 6 to 8 years, the boys at the age of 6 to 8 years, they were selected. If possible, en masse, about 5 to 10 boys or 20 boys are performed this Upanayana Samskara, sent to the Gurukula for education. So without education, life is meaningless, and uneducated person is as good as animal. So the boy has to die a ritual death. Again, he is reborn because of the fact that he is going for education near the Guru. So Ekaja or Sudra were Ekaja because they were not supposed to learn any education. They could not get any education. They need not, they need not gather any education. So they remained Ekaja. Even this prescription of ashrama, brahmacharya, grihastha, and what you call then vanaprastha and some sannyasa, these are all not required for even Ekaja. So this, because they don't perform what you call Upanayana Samskara, all that is something exempt for them. So this became the basis for the traditional ancient Indian society. Over a period of time, gradually society got divided, and more craft specialization, more job specialization, occupational specialization started. And from then on, this Varna slowly has taken a back seat, and over a period of time, Jati has entered into the mainstream. So what in the caste system, what has been replaced by what? Varna went into the background. We are not saying Varna is completely gone or Varna is completely different from caste. So it has been, I really get surprised. Many scholars said Varna and caste are different. Okay, if you only see from an outside point of view, as I told you, if you see from like our Clifford Geertz said, if you see from only a thin description, from an outsider point of view, it looks they are all different. But Varna and Jati are connected. Varna, in fact, gave way to Jati because Jati was basically occupation based. Varna originally started as skin color based, but later that was also occupation based because the four Varna, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, initially were they were also like occupation based. But after the Brahmana period of about 300 AD, today we call it as ADE. Okay, we don't call it as ADE. Sorry, we call it as CE. Okay, 300 CE. So what we call that as Brahmana period or Sutra period. By the time the four Varna already became multiplied, the number of people increased because of agriculture production and all. Lot of tribal people also entered into the lower levels of the Indian society. They were hired by the Brahmins because mostly Brahmins, and Brahmins got a lot of wealth given by the the Kshatriya, the Rajas and Maharajas as gifts. So a lot of gifts and villages, farms were all like required to be cultivated for that. So the Sudra population was not enough. So they have hired even the tribal people living alongside the mainstream, especially in central India and South India, it has become possible. So the number of castes in the lower levels have increased. Sudra castes have increased. So caste, this no longer this kind of watertight compartment of Varna system worked. Oh, eventually it gave way to Jati, lot of craft specialization and functional specialization increase. So this has become broad based. The broad based form of Varna is nothing but Jati. Okay, so broad based or broad basing of occupations and crafts has led to the Jati system. And even Jati has even given rise to Upajati. Further broadening of the or further widening of the crafts and occupations has led to Upajati. So today we call it as, of course, the English people call it as caste, and now Upajati is called as subcaste. And how this word caste actually come about, as I told you, caste system is the word, the entire thing is caste system only. Whether it has existed in thousands of years ago, Rig Vedic time, in the as a Varna thing, after the Brahmana period, Jati time, whatever term you use, a common word that you can use is caste. Because the Europeans, when they entered into India, they had a word called casta or castus. Casta or castus reflected something called as pure or pure breed. It was equivalent to something called pure or purity or pure breed. Just like animals, whenever we want to buy an animal or a dog or something or a horse, we would like to select a best breed. So why so? Because we want good qualities. In the same way, in India, when the Europeans came for trade and all, these Dutch people, Portuguese people, in fact, these two are Dutch and Portuguese words, casta and castus. When they saw the society clearly divided into pure and less pure kind of people. The Brahmins were supposed to be the most pure people, and the Sudra, and even below them, the Panchama people. Later, of course, the fourth, fifth rank got added into the Varna system. So the Sudra people and the Panchama were supposed to be most impure people. So there is a clear difference between pure and impure. So the society clearly got divided roughly, broadly, into the two extremes: more pure or the purest, and the more polluted are the least pure or more impure. So this purity business, though they had already got a word called casta, castus, so they have used that in India. So it has slowly become caste in English because English people have taken the power from the Dutch people, French people, etc. So caste system, caste is a single word that was used to denote the earliest form of Varna, form of this system of classification, Varna, later Jati, later Upajati, whatever, the single common word was caste. That is the reason anthropologists, right from the time of the British officials who worked in India, Risley, Hutton, and many people like Shakespeare, then there was a person called Dalton, and dozens of them. Dozens of them have worked on caste system. There were even missionaries like Abby Dubo in India. There were modern scholars, American scholars. They have also visited India. Mackim Marriott. Then we have got several scholars like F.G. Bailey and Maurice Opler. I can go on reeling out names, like dozens of them, British as well as American, French people. There was a man called William H. Weiser, his wife. Everybody studied these dimensions which attracted them the most. Whereas in the West, they don't have this kind of social stratification. Their only class is there, rich class, very rich class like aristocrats, landlords, then middle class, then again lower middle class, then the working class and poor class. So based on money, based on economic wealth, only people were categorized. But in India, there is a lot of a linkage between the caste and their socio-economic status. So anthropologists got interested in this even during the British time, British rule in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, and also 20th century first part. After the independence by the American anthropologists, most of them made a beeline to study the Indian caste system, village system, agriculture. Then they studied the gender, then the women's issue, family, joint family, then kinship system, Jajmani system, and how the entire village acted as one unit. So village studies were conducted. So these are the connections, right, in the Indian anthropology. Now in 2026 onwards, you will definitely expect again a lot of connections or linkages in all these parts. So the question can come, link 2, 3, and 4 chapter, or 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the one hand, questions can connect between chapter 2 and chapter 6, chapter 6 and chapter 7, chapter 7 and chapter 3. Everywhere there are connections. So if you know the subject like the back of your hand, especially the basics now, whatever I'm saying, you can easily do wonderfully well in your exams, my dear friends. So Indian anthropology is all about this. You need to have a very good grounding on the scholars, as I mentioned. All these people, Risley. I need not write on that. I'll just read out the names for you. Right from the scholars like Risley, Hutton, von Führer, Heimendorf. There is a man called Verrier Elwin. Okay, foreign scholars like J.H. Hutton, already I mentioned, I guess, and Indian father of Indian ethnography, S.C. Roy. There is another man almost like with the same stature called L.K. Ananta Krishna Iyer. Then we have got D.N. Majumdar, even before him, N.K. Bose, Irmal Kumar Bose, N.K. Bose, D.N. Majumdar, L.P. Vidyardhi, T.C. Tarak Chandra Das, K.P. Chattopadhyay, and all the tall figures, including our M.N. Srinivas, S.C. Dubey, Henry Bitili, and lady scholars like, Leela Dubey. We have got this woman, Airavati Karve. Don't forget the scholars. It is the easiest way to, mint marks in paper to first develop some notes on the thinker, not on the concept. Everybody is after the concepts, and we've got very limited books in Indian anthropology. Unfortunately, there is no single good book which can capture the entire requirement of UPSC as of now. As of now. So there are people nowadays, the contributions of people are also coming like T.N. Madan, and we have got a contribution like Patricia. There is a lady scholar, Patricia, I'm not getting her other name, and Veena Das. So several others have contributed. So modern day scholars' names will also be asked. Definitely. There was a man earlier, they asked about a name called, he has done research on the Lodhas. Okay, his name is, I'll just share with you in a second. So there were people like K.S. Singh, there were people like Mukherjee, R.K. Mukherjee. These people have been influenced by sociology, because sociologists also claim many of these people. These scholars are common in sociology as well as anthropology. A good deal of sociology gets linked here in paper 2. I just forgot to add. I'm now adding. Okay, so be very careful in these scholars. Like have at least 4 or 5 points on each scholar. Minimum you can write on them. And कौन है क्या बच गया अभी sociology में? R.K. Mukherjee. There are people like we've got Rudolph and Rudolph, then Kotowski, some other foreign scholars. In recent times, they have contributed. Recent case studies you can pick up, of course. I'll just discuss with the team. If it's possible, we'll make a table of all these case studies and some theories, some points which can be useful to you. Attach in the description as links, or even in our website, ARK Reflections IAS Academy, or in the Telegram channels, wherever there is possibility, we'll share. Okay, so in this way, better become strong in the subjects in paper 2 from the thinker's point of view. In paper 2, tribal India. In tribal India, you have to be having one wonderful approach. What is that approach? In tribal India, as I told you, or the tribal anthropology, or tribal part, you need to have something called as empathy. You'll be surprised, sir, what are you saying? So there is an entire syllabus. No, without just because of syllabus, you can't do very well. In fact, you should have something called as empathy or emotional quotient. Loads of them. Because why these people are suffering even after so many years of independence, more than 3 quarters. Of a century. Okay, these people are still following injustice. They are seeing injustice. There are laws made like Forest Rights Act 2006. There are acts made like PISA. There are schemes made like Janman scheme and comprehensive conservation and development program to protect the PVTGs. There are programs for their education, scholarships, their nutrition like Poshan Abhiyan, housing schemes, and finance schemes, social forestry programs. Then there is everything on the paper. But what is going wrong? Where it is going wrong? The examiner these days is asking you to critically examine. Please understand, there is a lot of difference that has come in the last few years. The examiner is asking you to critically examine. That means you have to pick holes in this acts, their implementation, and why the tribal people and these marginalized communities are suffering. For example, whenever you write about these tribal people or the village people, better you can invoke a theory like as we have discussed earlier, critical ethnography. You can think of postmodernistic idea, emic approach, okay, cultural relativism, empathy here, which is lacking in the officials. Tribals are displaced in a huge number. Their employment problems are there, health issues they are suffering, and government schemes do not reach them. The road, last mile connectivity, roads are like dilapidated. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tribals die in snake bites and because of the accidents. Then pregnant women die, and so many things. Like, there is a negative side. Every time we are only talking about the problems, the displacement, land alienation, all are there in your syllabus. Okay, so why I'm like going in this fashion? Because these parts are actually, from the concept point of view, they are very less. But if you want to convert them into marks, then that's a difficult thing. Examiner looks like, what is the examiner expecting you from you in that? This common thread, this simple thread called emotional quotient. How you are responding to their lives, their problems. Though they are given constitutional safeguards, reservations, schemes, housing schemes, Ekalavya model schools, then these Anganwadi programs, Ajkal to skill development program. There was one recent case study in Adilabad district. They have brought one skill center where they are given in training in computers and AI, and the government, like Araku coffee is being like popularized. You can write dozens of case studies. Araku coffee is being popularized by the government of Andhra Pradesh. Yesterday there was a private company, I told you, there was a company called Ramraj Cotton Dhotis, Lungis. That Ramraj Cotton teamed up with Santal people for their design and some of their pancha. It's called pancha, that lungi. with Velcro. They've developed that with the design of the Santali tribes. Yesterday, again, there was an article. Our Rashtrapati Draupadi Murmuji, she belongs to the Santali community. She has said some invitations that to be sent to guests for the August 15th. So they will be inspired by the Santali traditions and designs again. So everywhere you have to be like linking this, the core concept, the thinkers, the tribal issue, the tribal problem, government schemes, constitutional safeguards, and the latest things that are happening. Case study. So again, you develop a holistic answer, just like that integration that we have seen in the paper one. Here also, kindly show that integrated nature of the answer. Don't just blindly follow some kind of topper notes or some topper this thing. Okay, you can see topper notes not an issue. Okay, toppers notes are important, but only to get a grasp of, how they are doing, not to copy them. Don't copy paste thing, because in UPSC originality is rewarded more than copy paste thing. कोई notes उठा लिया, मगप मार लिया, कर लिया, oh guide book पढ़ लिया. Some books have come these days, become popular, so called, written by toppers, and that's the reason examiner is shifting gears. Every time the nature of the questions are like evolving, along with the way society is evolving, the way globalization is impacting the cultures, the way ethnography is going for a sea change, the way human problems are becoming multifaceted, and the way human problems require multidimensional solutions. So keep these things in mind. You will mint marks in this exam. See, this exam is not about you getting marks. This exam is about showing to the UPSC that, look, I matter. I am relevant. My ideas, my answers are relevant to the country, to the nature of the exam, to the pattern of the questions, to the changing dynamics of the society, to the globalized India, developing India, which reflects the new kaleidoscope. So with that, I end this discussion, my dear friends. So much is there to talk about, but thanks for giving me this opportunity. I thank ARK IAS Reflections IAS team also for this. And in the coming days, I'll be like motivated to more and more videos, to do more videos. If you guys, once you see this kind of discussions, when you respond to what level, what kind of quality we can elevate, I've just given you the glimpse of my my pedagogy, my kind of interaction with you, my style of teaching, my style of integrating things. If you like all that, I request you to, like these videos. If you like that, share with your friends. If you like to know more about this in depth, all these topics, come to the classes. We'll be like showing you what is real anthropology, actual anthropology, and how we can actually develop strategies to write very good answers, and how to get mentored in this very short time, and more and more of them. Okay. Thank you. All the best. God bless you. Godspeed. గారు అయిపోయిందండి.